And it is that time again. Glad to be back in the chat room with you guys on Dr. to Doctor in the chat room right here on 94.7 FM. And equally as glad to be able to chat it up with my beautiful co-host, Dr. Nicole. How are you today, ma'am?
Fabulous, fabulous. How are you?
I love it. I love it.
I'm having a good time, and the weather's getting good, and that's my favorite. Whenever the weather gets to be nice, I'm with it.
So you know what? I was gonna say to our listening audience today, I was gonna say, we hope that you guys are taking care of yourselves, hope that you're doing good, and we hope that you are staying warm on some days and staying cool on others, because that is just how unpredictable this weather has been. Like, I don't know where we are.
Well, you know what? I was talking to somebody the other day about the weather, and I was telling them I grew up in upstate New York, and so it is not uncommon for us to have a snowstorm practically in April. And so I'll take this 70.
Yeah, well, you know what? We do. In April, we usually get some snow for whatever the reason.
I just cannot. So
it doesn't last. You know what I'm saying? It's usually a pretty big snow, like what you want to see around the holidays. But,
right. Yeah. I'll take the back and forth over, 3 degrees. And
I hear you.
I will take the back and forth any day.
Well, today we've got one of our most favorite is shows that we love to do. We are going to be talking about relationships. Yay! I love it because that's our fun show. This is always our fun show. Yeah. And particularly how to deal with emotionally unavailable people. What does it even mean to be emotionally unavailable? We'll talk about that, and some signs and some things that you can look out for. And why do some people tend to attract emotionally unavailable people? It's a curse. That's what it is.
Yes.
I don't know.
Absolutely.
But we're going to talk about all of that.
Yes.
All of it.
Yeah.
So when we hear the phrase emotionally unavailable, it's kind of thrown around a lot, right? But what does it even mean? When you hear that phrase. And I think, it encompasses a whole lot of characteristics. Okay. One being when people are kind of shady about talking about things, they're not open to discussing their feelings and sharing their feelings. Maybe somebody that's kind of hard to read because they're not very expressive, about their feelings, almost as if they have something to hide. Yeah. But I think it's important to tap into, like, what are the characteristics? What kinds of things do we look for? And then, even if is it us? Are we emotionally unavailable? We, as in we in general, right? Sometimes when we are being accusatory,
right?
Is it us? Is it you? But I think communication is probably going to be that top thing that you would see from someone that is emotionally unavailable.
Yeah, I would agree.
Have you
Go ahead.
Have you dealt with that?
Yes. I unfortunately,
Mhm.
have. And I think the part that is the most interesting is how hurtful
Mhm.
it is to deal with someone or to try to be in a relationship with someone who's emotionally unavailable. Like
Mhm.
somebody who
Because they don't usually admit it, right?
right, exactly.
Okay.
And I think you tend to start questioning yourself or
Mhm.
maybe even taking it personal because how can you not? It feels personal. You are not sharing with me. You are not
Mhm.
opening up to me, and
Mhm.
therefore something must be wrong with me, which
Mm.
is not always the case. But yeah, I've dealt with that, um, and thank God I'm not having to deal with that anymore.
Yes. So back to the communication thing. I feel like if somebody really cares about you,
Hmm.
if there is a genuine interest in you,
Hmm.
then they're going to be available to connect with you.
Hmm.
They're going to want you to feel heard, right?
Hmm.
And they are going to want to talk to you and make efforts to talk to you, not to avoid
Right.
talking to you, you know. And then here's the other thing. They avoid those conversations that go deeper.
Yes.
They may speak in a surface kind of way,
Yeah.
but they don't want to go, they don't want to go deep.
And it may even be almost like disguised by um asking you to share more about yourself,
They'll
and
say,
making you feel special because oh, they want to know so much about me, but maybe
mm-hmm.
in reality it is just an avoidance tactic to not
And
have
someone who doesn't want to share anything truly impactful about themselves with a person that they are saying they are trying to embark upon a relationship with.
to.
Could not, that's rarely someone who's really serious about
Yeah,
embarking upon anything meaningful
yeah,
and lasting.
yeah. And so maybe, we always talk about red flags.
Mm-hmm.
This is a huge red flag. If they are hesitant, okay, if they're hesitant in the beginning to connect, um,
Mm-hmm.
I guess we should probably say it may not always be a red flag or a sign
Sure.
of something else. Maybe they're
Sure.
just trying, or they're taking their time, or you can have all of those options as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I would pay attention to it, probably mainly because I didn't pay attention to it before.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't really know what to look for. But I think it could be a red flag of something
Mm-hmm.
that is going to continue to persist in the relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's just women but we do tend to think we can, make people change or be different along,
Oh, we do.
by.
No, as I mean, I've known people to be in situations where they were told um up front,
Mhm.
where people were really transparent and they were like, oh yeah, I understand, but they always think they can change the person and it's something about me that's so special about me that'll make them see things um, differently.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah. And how often does that actually play out the way we think it's going to?
almost never.
Exactly.
Almost never. Um, I find it really interesting that emotionally unavailable people seek out relationships.
Yes.
Tell me why that is. Why would someone do that? I mean, as opposed to, hey, I'm just looking for somebody to go to dinner with every now and then.
Mhm.
I'm just looking for somebody to hang out with every now and then. I'm not even like why. It's almost like we really really hone in on the narcissistic behaviors on the show a lot, right? It's almost like somebody like that, you know, because they know in order to get what they want, then they come strong, like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, somebody is that pursuing you, you know, taking you to dinner and doing all these things, but that's all they want.
Yeah. And typically when they get what they want, then all of that, you know, love bombing
That's
stops.
what it is, the love bombing.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean that I think that's the $1,000,000 question. Why would you pursue a relationship when you know you don't really have a intent to connect on a real deep level? I think, you know, for some people, and this is going to be, you know, just different depending on who we're talking about here, but for some people, they just didn't learn it, right? They may have had emotionally unavailable parents, and so maybe they didn't learn how to connect emotionally, and maybe they really are trying from relationship to relationship to relationship to learn it, and maybe they just keep failing. I think there's those people who are really trying and just can't get it. And then I think there's another group of people who are narcissists, like you said, and they kind of thrive off of confusing people. Like getting into a relationship and making that person think they're going to be the one and they're going to be great, and then just snatching it all away and leaving the person with their mouth on the floor. Like, what happened? I think narcissists thrive off of creating that kind of interpersonal confusion. And then I guess there's maybe another group of people too who might not be able to express emotions because maybe they were shamed as a kid or judged by it, or grew up with parents that said you don't do that, we don't, you know, we don't share emotions in here, and so their maybe emotions got stifled.
Yeah, you know, because with that said, they seem really overwhelmed by emotion, you know what I'm saying, of the other person's emotion,
right,
or intimacy. Like they shy away from it. I mean, in a more like I'm trying to be independent of it
yeah,
kind of way is what I'm saying. Yeah.
and
So they don't want to be in a like a vulnerable state. That's it.
I think that was, you know, you asked me earlier if I had ever gone through that. That was what it was in my case of, you know, that person not feeling comfortable being vulnerable. Meaning he couldn't be vulnerable with me, and I couldn't be vulnerable with him either because it would make him uncomfortable, and he couldn't do it. I remember there was one time I was.
So did he avoid the whole label, the label of the relationship?
No, and I think that's what you were just asking a minute ago. No, he didn't. Dove right into it. Made it seem like it was, you know,
it was a thing.
Yes.
Okay.
And but then when you get really you know, to the point where you can get closer and really connect, then it was like, oh no, that's too much for me. I recall one incident in particular. I was you know, I had learned some news about my mom that had passed away, you know, a few years back. I was talking to one of her best friends, and she had shared with me that she knew my mom was sick at the time, and I didn't know. She was sharing some things with me that my mom was saying, like, oh, I hope it isn't cancer. And I don't know why, but that just that did something to me. That was just a lot. And so I was, you know, in tears and kind of having a conversation. And I remember them saying, you think you should call your sister? Almost like I can't do this. And I remember thinking, man, it would be so nice to just get some.
But see, you know, we were talking off air about how things come up and you just have to tuck them away.
Yeah.
Right. So dealing with your mom's illness and ultimately her death, you know, you could not deal with, did this person just asked me, did I need to call my sister? And they're sitting right here, you know what I'm saying, with me in the moment. You had to tuck that away.
Yep. And I wouldn't call my sister because I
Yeah.
needed somebody who was going to be emotionally available for
Yes.
for that moment. And
yeah, and she wasn't because it was your mom.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. So yeah, there's that shying away from emotion or avoiding it, or stuffing down their own emotions. And I mean, it's difficult to be in a relationship with somebody like that. It's extremely difficult.
So I read an article that said they seem to want perfection. They are always looking for something negative to latch onto in order to justify their own kind of crappy behavior. So they seek perfection in imperfect humans. So they can use their flaws as justification for ending things or for things not getting serious.
Yes.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
That is the one of the emotional manipulation tactics that we talked about, shows back. But yeah, it's that making you believe something's wrong with you so that they can feel justified about not giving you what you need or not being in the relationship the way that you want them to. It's not their fault. It's got to be something wrong with you. Which is hard to be on the receiving end of that.
But people like that, if you get in a relationship with somebody, you want to share, right? You want to be able to talk about, the just your life journey and just share. But if you're doing that with the wrong person, they can weaponize what you say in the right moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And so if you just spilling your guts, as my grandmother used to say, and just, doing a tell-all. And then just when the moment is feasible for them, they weaponize it. Oh, well, you might feel this way because of what you went through when you were 12.
And disguising it almost like I'm just trying to help you connect the dots. I'm just trying to, and it's just,
It's just, I mean, why would an emotionally unavailable person be accountable though? I mean, let's just face it. Why? Why would they be? Are you trying to tell me we're already at our first break?
Yeah, we are there. I'm just as shocked as you are. I mean, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, well, in that case, we will be right back on 94.7 FM. We'll be back in a moment, guys. And we're back on 94.7 FM talking about emotionally unavailable people. Like, what does that mean? Why do we tend to sometimes just continue to circle back to this same behavior? And the answer to that question is probably what you said. It is familiar. It's unhealthy, but it's familiar. Yeah. And I shared with you that somebody told me sometimes we just take one face off and put another face on.
Yeah.
To make it work.
Yep. And I think that's such a good point, because a lot of us will ask that question of like, why do I keep getting into the same relationship over and over and over again?
This vicious cycle.
Yeah. And I think that's it. We just, we trade the person, but we don't necessarily trade the behaviors.
Absolutely. Yeah. One other thing about emotionally unavailable people is like they make you feel really, really safe. One day. And the next day you're so scared because you don't know where you are, where your place is. It's like going from hot to cold, to hot to cold. And it's really uncomfortable. And like I said, it's really scary.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is what, I've read a bunch of articles that say, why does it feel like when you're in that kind of relationship, why does it almost feel like you are addicted to the person or to the relationship?
And there's this strong temptation to always go back to it.
Yeah. Yeah. When we know in our logical brain that it makes no sense and that the cycle's just going to continue to, show itself no differently than it ever has before. But I think some of these articles say that that kind of back and forth, that good day, bad day, good day, bad day, kind of mimics the way that cocaine that our brain responds to cocaine. And so we're kind of chasing that, good feeling again that you get from the relationship. And it causes a kind of addiction to the person or the relationship or the, rush of serotonin or dopamine that we get when they're being all nice. It's amazing how our brain works in that kind of situation.
Because nobody should feel like they're just being jerked around, right? Emotionally jerked around.
Right.
And if you're not with somebody stable, that is clear about what they want, clear about their intentions with you, that's not, disingenuous. I mean, otherwise you're going to feel like you're always tiptoeing on eggshells.
Yes.
You're going to always feel like you are unclear about your place in their lives.
Yeah.
I've literally had situations where I've had to say, where somebody was, don't be insecure. And I mean, like I was feeling some kind of way about that. I'm like, my daddy, I almost drank the Kool-Aid. Like, am I, insecure? Nah, bro, it's
ain't
all you.
right.
It's all you. You disrespectful.
And I think that's maybe that's, what we should mention as a sign. Somebody calling you either dramatic or immature.
Over the top.
Yes, that is just a tactic to get you to stop bothering them, to stop questioning them.
That is so borderline narcissism.
Yeah, absolutely. And I even think, and again, I want to make sure we don't like demonize everybody who is emotionally unavailable, because some people are that way because they were just raised that way and they don't know anything else. And some people feel bad about it, but then there's the other camp who really.
And some people are prioritizing other things in life. Things happen, right? And they are just emotionally unavailable in the moment.
Right.
But not permanently.
Right. And I also think the difference between those people is if you bring it to their attention that, the way you are doing kind of hurts me, they probably will be reflective and apologetic. That other camp that we talk about, they're going to use that against you at some point, that you have let yourself become vulnerable and, shared your emotions. Like, but please believe that's going to come back to bite you later with those other folks.
Another thing they're not good at is compromising their time. I went through a situation, always at that person's house, always go where they want to go, always go when they want to go. If you ask them, they are not necessarily available. Everything, you think of, me pretty well, and the types of things that I enjoy doing. And I would have to do all of those things either with somebody else or by myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because they don't compromise their time. It's all about them. And that's the reason why I say it's so borderline
Mm-hmm.
narcissism, because that's what narcissists do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? When it's all over and done, we're gonna have everybody diagnosed as narcissist. I'm just saying.
Right.
Everybody gonna be a narcissist.
It is an epidemic. I'm convinced. I mean, the amount of people that I see that come through the office, and it's mostly women, not to say that women can't be narcissists, they can, but it is mostly women that I see that come in and everything that they're explaining about their partner feels like they probably are a
Are
narcissist.
victims of it, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think it's honestly an epidemic. I think there are many more people out there, maybe who, you know, but they may not be, you know, able to be diagnosed because maybe they don't meet the criteria, but that does not mean that they don't have a lot of tendencies that hurt a lot of
And
people.
I will forever say, I mean, we've just in recent years kind of attached a name to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think we've dealt with it more on a symptom by symptom, characteristic by characteristic basis,
Yeah.
more so, you know what I'm saying, than a list of things that you see. Like, I'm just saying, for instance, being unaccountable.
Mm-hmm. Oh, goodness.
Okay. I'm just saying, like, you know, that person is not accountable for their actions or whatever. And, you know, we just kind of highlight that characteristic
Yeah.
and not all the other things that kind of come with that. So,
Right.
you know, and I mean, like, you know, we know it's a diagnosable mental illness now.
Mm-hmm.
And it hasn't always been.
Mm-hmm.
And what I find really interesting about narcissism is that it's almost like it's incurable.
Yeah. Yeah. I've read a lot
Like therapists have to work around trying to manage it, but it's like it ain't really going anywhere.
yeah, I don't think so, because I mean, now there are some people that say, oh, it's curable, and you know, maybe. But the more research that I've read has said that it isn't necessarily curable because it was created really young, and it's how the brain developed around trauma. And we all know how hard it is to essentially rewire our brain when we're an adult. So that is how the narcissist brain developed in order to survive. Like that's how the person.
So they're always, I mean, they're always kind of the ones that want to work on it, right? They're always in recovery, I presume.
That's how I would describe it exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because the tendency is to go back to that selfishness, that, that self-preservation, that can't be vulnerable, can't be accountable, have to invalidate other people's feelings to make myself feel better. Like the tendency is always to go back to that because again, that's how their brain was wired. And it is a lot like being in recovery. You have to stay constantly aware of how you're responding and what you're doing to people. And that I mean, think about how hard that is. We don't do that. We just act. We just behave. So teaching somebody to pay attention to their words, actions, thoughts, behaviors, like every day, it feels impossible.
Yeah. Makes sense. Another biggie is emotionally unavailable people tend to want to continue to see other people. They don't want to be, exclusive, but that's not usually how they approached it.
Right.
They approach it as if they are seeking something exclusive until you are emotionally
yes
attached, and then they move on by seeing multiple people.
And I think that's what is so hard about it, because it almost feels like a betrayal. Like you chased,
It is a betrayal.
yeah, you chased me down and now are saying, never mind. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what? It's just, yeah.
How about conflating drama with intimacy?
Mm, interesting.
Like enjoy being chased and sought after.
Uh-huh.
Um, but playing games causing distress in the
Mm-hmm.
other person. You ever heard of those situations where somebody like starts an argument just to
Yes. Unfortunately, yes.
to do what they want to do?
Yeah.
They kind of cut people off at the drop of a hat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So am I emotionally unavailable? Because I'll cut you off now. I'll cut you
No,
off.
no. And I think that's important because, what you are saying sounds like good boundaries. That
Yeah, I mean, being emotionally unavailable doesn't make you a bad person.
right.
I think it's bad if you're not honest about it. If you are emotionally unavailable, if you are non-committal and you are approaching a person and pursuing them as if you want something
Right.
or you want what they seem to want and you
Yeah.
know you don't, that's what makes it bad.
Yes. Using it as a weapon. Yeah.
Yes.
That's what makes you a bad person. Because you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to do that.
Right.
You could just be honest. Because here's the thing. I think there's a lot of people out there, men and women, where if you were to go up to them and say, this is what I'm looking for.
I say
Nothing.
that all the time.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that will say
Somebody
nothing wrong
out
with that.
there, but people like that, people with that mindset, they want what they want. I mean, if they think you are the it, then the person for them. I'm saying, like,
Mhm.
that's what they want. They're not gonna just grab any old body. For
Right.
the times that they want to be connected, they want to be connected to certain people or a certain type of person or whatever.
Yeah.
I just find it a really weird phenomenon. I do.
Yeah.
And I know I do because my brain doesn't work that
Like,
way.
yeah.
Yeah. And men tend to say, and not all men, but a lot of men tend to say that y'all are just so emotional. Y'all are the emotional creatures and we're this and but I think men can be emotional too. And I think men can want something meaningful and lasting. There are men that really want that. Like you said, if truth be told, it's somebody, as they say, out there for everybody. And if you talk to the right person and connect with the right person, everybody wins. Like it's a
Yeah.
win-win. But when we're not connecting with the right people, that's what prompts these kind of discussions.
Right. Yeah. I think it's a really difficult thing to try to navigate. And I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes what happens is when we get into something with a person like that and they treat us great, and then all of a sudden they're emotionally unavailable, there's something something in us that makes us go, wait a minute, I'm going to try even harder now. I'm going to try, like, to connect with them even more, and I don't know what that is, but
Either as big as the world is,
mhm,
all these people in the world, and we would invest that much of our time, our emotion, our feelings, our mental status
mhm.
into someone that makes us work that hard. I don't know either, but it's something about it. And I don't know. I think it's that human instinct, like the challenge of it. Like,
Yeah. When
or
somebody tells
something
you
like
you
I
can't
can
have,
make them love me. I can make them want me.
yeah,
I can make them. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep. When somebody tells you you can't have something, it makes you want it even more.
Yeah, don't touch, as a little kid, don't touch the stove. Now I really need to know
Yeah.
what is it about touching that stove.
Yeah.
Now that is, man, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
it is. But I think they thrive on that too, because I think they know that once I pull away or once I, start treating them differently, it's going to make them, want me even more, which again is what part of what makes you a bad person when you do that, because you are weaponizing, you're using that against somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's a reason there's a show dedicated to what happens when people get fed up with folks like that. It's called Snap. There's a show that's like, I'm just saying.
So when we come back from break, I'd like to know what you think about, when they um when they pull away
Mm-hmm.
purposely to get that reaction, okay,
Mm-hmm.
of you trying harder,
Mm-hmm.
but instead it backfires and you decide I'm done, and the person says, you know what, I'm done with this.
Mm-hmm.
What happens then? And this is where I think we'll see the real connection between
Mm-hmm.
emotionally unavailable people and narcissism. Let's
Right.
talk about what happens then. We'll be right back in a moment. We're here on Dr. the Doctor in the chat room on 94.7 FM.
And we're back. Thanks for hanging out with us on this Saturday. So, we are having a good discussion today about relationships and emotionally unavailable people, and really what that looks like. So, before we went to break, Dr. Shaw, you had mentioned what happens when the other person in the relationship decides they've had enough.
Mm-hmm.
And they decide, I'm done with this. I'm not dealing with it anymore.
But for real though,
Right. Because we say that. And then we go back. I've done it, whatever. But what does that look like on the other side of the relationship with the emotionally unavailable person? So I don't know. Has that ever happened for you? When you are like, yeah, I'm good with this. I'm just gonna be done. I know I've had that experience a couple times. And sometimes the person on the other side, that emotionally unavailable person,
mm-hmm.
one of two things. They either kind of, slowly go away, drift off in the middle of and then they come back uh with a vengeance, kind of like the same way they came in the beginning, with that love
The love
thing.
bombing and the
Yeah.
what was the other hoovering?
Hovering, yes, they kind of come back with a vengeance, like, oh, I'm ready to do this, and I can really give you what you want this time, and blah blah blah. Or they just kind of go off and wait for you to come back,
Mm-hmm.
because they probably believe they'll be back.
I think there comes a time though when they believe you, when they believe that you are gone.
Mm-hmm.
And if they cannot love bomb to get you back,
Mm-hmm.
and Hoover and all of that, I think they just move on to their next, I'm gonna call it victim.
Victim. Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
But
Now, keep in mind when I say that, I'm talking about the emotionally unavailable people that intentionally, that know they are non-committal, they know they are emotionally unavailable and have no real intent of
mm-hmm.
embarking upon a relationship, but yet they seek out people
Mm-hmm.
in that manner. I want to make that clear, because if you telling folks you're emotionally unavailable and you're not committal and they decide to get in a relationship with you, then that's all them. Yeah.
Yeah. That you have given them all the information to make a well-informed decision.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those people who are truly narcissistic, I think those people will forever, until the day they die, believe, oh, they'll be back. I don't think they ever truly admit that a person that they have.
Then move on.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Really?
I don't think. Well, and I'm only, just judging by the the couple that I have, had the pleasure of dealing with. I don't think they really ever believe, because I think, think about it. In order to say that, you would have to admit that that person didn't no longer wanted you, the
Whoa,
narcissist.
whoa, and that ain't happening with a narcissist because they're so grandiose.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So even if it's, a lie they're telling themselves, I don't think they ever actually admit that, yeah, that person's gone on and they're not coming back. I just don't think they have it in them to do that. They're all about that, ego protection, of the ego. And to admit that somebody has definitely gone on about their life and left them alone, that feels really threatening to the ego, I think.
And so if someone is emotionally unavailable but don't have narcissistic tendencies, that person could, first of all, acknowledge that they are emotionally unavailable, and they could, if they wanted to be emotionally available, like you said, there's something, it could be around childhood trauma, it could be around so many reasons why they are not there, or just simply, like I said, prioritizing other things in life. Well, those people can work on or work towards being emotionally available.
Yeah.
But if you find someone that's not even acknowledging that they are, that's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a sign that they probably are not going to work on it, because
they're not, because like you said, it's their weapon. They've weaponized that to get what they want. And again, not in the judgment seat. I'm having a really tough time processing that whole mindset to knowing that, like you said, you could just find you somebody that thinks like you. Y'all just not be emotionally attached to anyone, and just get out there and just do whatever you want to do. Right. But you choose to prey on people's, emotions.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the big piece too, is them seeking out people who are like empathetic, and people who will
that's big.
Excuses for the other person, like, oh, they had a bad childhood, or oh, right, me too. Oh, this is just hard for them, or oh, this is uncomfortable. I mean,
fixers.
Yes. I made all kinds of excuses. And now that I look back on it, I'm like, that wasn't for me to take responsibility for.
Not your responsibility.
Yeah. So some of the things that I have that I was looking at when we were talking about this topic was, what do you do if you find yourself in this kind of relationship with somebody? Because I think a lot of people who are listening have either been in a relationship like this, are currently in one, or chances are they may be
headed to one. It's kind of like the storms of life.
Yep.
You either been in one, you're in one, or you're on your way.
Yep, exactly.
Absolutely.
So I think this is, relevant for everybody, but what do you do if you are in one, or if you are possibly headed into one? And one of the things is, we've talked a little bit about it, but it's just kind of knowing the signs, like paying attention to the signs,
and not ignoring them.
Yes. Absolutely. So paying attention to people who might avoid talking about their feelings, or people who might invalidate your feelings, or get defensive when there's a conflict.
Mm.
That for me is huge. It's just huge. That thing I pay attention to now, probably more than anything, maybe because it's the most obvious to pay attention to, but
So what, this is kind of funny. So I talked to somebody that avoided discussions, right?
Mhm.
They avoided talking. And then when they were almost pushed like in a corner about it,
Mhm.
they would say, I might, text, well, texting is not good, and blah blah blah. Oh, okay. Then they would say, well, how about we just write?
Uh-huh.
And I'm
Mhm.
like, well, what's the difference?
Exactly.
Because I mean, whether I write it in an email, on paper, or in a text message,
Right. Or
it
send it
can
with a
still
script.
be, yeah, or sending smoke signals. It can still be, misinterpreted. If you feel texting can be
Right.
misinterpreted, then writing could also equally be
Right.
misinterpreted. Uh, or if I saw them face to face, they would say, I mean, well, this is not the time, where we are. I mean, when I look back on that, it is hilarious to
Yeah.
me. And I will not lie about how many times my mind said, this person is this many years old
Uh-huh.
and can't avoiding a conversation, about,
Yeah.
I mean, may have been something important, but you're not talking to the big bad wolf. We're just trying to have
Right.
but I never thought once at that time about them being, emotionally
Mhm.
unavailable or non-committal or anything.
Mhm.
I just was always trying to figure out, what is the big deal?
Right.
Why are you running so fast and hard away
Yeah.
from a face-to-face discussion? Now they would talk about everything else. I mean,
Mhm.
under the sun.
Yep.
But like we said early on, you better not try to go deep.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they're gonna redirect you right on out of there.
What?
Yeah. Another interesting one too is you might have really irregular conversation or communication, or they might be really, really vague or almost purposely confusing. That's the thing that gets me. Like, what is that about?
I don't know. And then say something that's supposed to be so philosophical and so deep and so profound, after, I don't know.
Yeah. So, just know the signs, be aware of the signs, pay attention to the signs. And like we said earlier, don't personalize it. Don't make it about you, because they
Mhm,
make it about you. Um,
mhm,
and don't make their emotional unavailability your problem to fix, because it's not. That's
mhm,
that's on them. We're talking about
mhm.
grown people.
Grown people.
Yeah. Yeah. Focusing on yourself, right? Going to therapy, trying to determine maybe what are the factors that keep leading me here. What am I doing? What is my part? What can I change? What can I do differently? Um, so
And
that you
I think with that, it's the courage to do something different. It's the
Ooh,
courage, yes, it's the courage to do something unfamiliar.
yes.
Yeah, it's the courage to, no matter how long the journey, find your way back to that place right before you started getting involved with
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, go back to that person, to that self,
Yeah.
find that person again, right? And sometimes that could be as simple as taking time
Mm-hmm.
away from the dating process altogether, and just sometimes we have to detox from things, right? We just have to, yeah. clear our minds, our bodies,
Mhm.
and reset.
Yeah. Yeah. So that you can have a different perspective or a different focus when you go back
Mhm.
out and try to date again.
Saying that made me think of the times that I've known people, I've met people that have gone through some really tough, relationships or whatever. And then they'll finally meet that right person. And everybody's like, so and so really deserved that. They finally found somebody, and it's really because they've changed their whole perspective and their whole mindset, right? They must have seen something differently,
Right.
something
Right.
that wasn't so familiar, and said, this might be a good thing.
Yeah. But that is exactly it. It's the courage to do something different. And I know that that's much easier said than done.
We're putting
But
that on a t-shirt.
yeah. What's that saying? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different
Insanity.
results is
Mm-hmm.
insanity.
Mm-hmm.
But how easy is it to do that? Like, oh, it'll be different this time. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
what? Oh, it'll be different this time. Like, no,
Mm-hmm.
it just won't. But there's something about accepting that it won't be different.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard. That's why we
It
keep.
is hard. And one of the things that make it hard, let's just be, real and transparent, is the investment. When that's where you put all your time and your efforts and whatever, then you
Mhm.
start being like, well, hey, I spent 12 years. I guess I should
Right.
try. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because yeah, the first year you said, well, it ain't been long enough.
Right.
And then the next thing you know, it's been, too long.
20 years. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
seriously.
Yeah. Another thing to think about is whether or not you are enabling their behavior. This
Mm.
article. So asking yourself, are you enabling your partner's emotional unavailability? Keep in mind that it is not your fault nor your responsibility to fix their behavior, but it's important to keep in mind if you are enabling the behavior. This can come from lack of boundaries or being unclear about what you want, or what you need. So just
I think the boundary thing is huge.
mhm,
Yeah, it's to say unacceptable.
yep.
Like, this is unacceptable. But if you keep, and man, have you ever asked yourself, why did I do that? Like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, yeah. And myself often doesn't have a good answer, but I have asked, what are you doing? Yeah, I have. Um, so here's another one, the one that probably might be the most difficult of all of
Okay.
the tips. Um,
Mm-hmm.
consider letting go. Letting go of a relationship isn't easy, takes a lot of courage and strength and effort.
Oh,
Um,
Lord.
you need to understand that your emotionally unavailable partner is not putting conscious effort in, and you can't do it for them. Um,
You
ask
can't.
ask yourself, can you be happy if your partner's behavior continues? And if the answer is
Ask
no,
all those tough questions. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you can't be.
right.
Now, but when people have allowed these types of situations to make them
Mhm,
uh, mentally sick and stressed,
mhm.
sometimes people think that's, I can't do any better now. Like, this is all I know. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's almost like a domestic violence
yeah,
situation. Yeah.
yeah. These relationships are tough to navigate. I mean, that's just
In the
the
first place. And then when you're trying to do it with somebody that's emotionally unavailable, then
yeah,
what are we doing here? Make it
right,
make sense, okay?
right. The math ain't mathing, is
It
what I
ain't
heard.
math. Yeah.
Well, we are about out of time again.
What?
Yes, I know. These relationship shows, I mean, they just go. They go by. I
They
mean,
do, especially when we have our panel on, man.
yeah, we got to
It's
get
like
some
it's
of that more.
15 minutes.
We got to
Mm,
get it back.
we do.
Yeah. Well, it was fun. It was
It
fun.
was fun. It was good to see your face in the place.
You too. And it was good to hang out with you guys today. Thank you for being here. Please come back and hang out with us again next time on Doctor to Doctor in the Chat Room on 94.7 FM.
Same chat channel, same chat time. We'll see you then.